GJ Math. In this video, we will look at the arithmetic SN formula and typical sums you can expect to find in this. There are going to be 4 questions. You do not need to do all of them, but the last few are quite difficult, so I would really challenge you to try them and treat this as if it was a test. Do them, mark it honestly, and just see, do you truly understand what's going on, or do you need to revisit some of the previous videos? Enjoy. Question 1. Calculate the sum of the first 30 terms of the series. Okay, so I'm going to start with the list. They are telling me to calculate Sn. They are telling me n is 30. I can see a is -3, and then d is -7 minus -3, so that would just be -4. So now I can just go and sub in the formula and say, okay, S30 would be equal to 30 over 2 times a plus n minus 1 and then d. You can simplify a little bit and you can see 30 over 2 is 15. That would give me -6, and then that would give me -116. So 29 times 4 would just be 116. And then you can just type it in the calculator. You are not going to get a mark for the middle step, but some teachers would say just do a little bit extra so they don't think you just used your calculator. But I think in finals you'll get full marks if you skip the middle step. Final answer would be -1830. Okay, so I would give this 2 marks, 1 mark for subbing incorrectly. They made it very clear what they're looking for. So sometimes if it's a difficult sum, like you'll see later on, you get a mark for actually choosing the correct formula. In this case, they made it clear it was the SN formula. And then just a mark for your answer. Okay, so 2 marks for that question. Question 2. In the following series, 3, 10, 17, and 122, find the number of terms in the series. Okay, so this is one of those little bit more tricky sums that I was talking about, and I want you to please, the moment you see those 3 little dots there, immediately think of the Tn formula. So if I don't know what n is, but I know what the value of the last one is, I first need to do Tn before I can do Sn. So let's make a little list. Like I said, if you see the dots, I know I'm going to do a Tn formula first. The whole purpose of that is because I am going to work out what is n, and then a I can see is 3, d I can see is 7. So find the number of terms in the series. Tn equals a plus n minus 1 d. Okay, so you can first work out the Tn formula, or you can immediately go and sub in the 122, because I'm anyway going to use algebra to figure out what's n. I don't need the Tn formula. So this would be 3 plus 7n minus 7. So 3 minus 7 gives me -4. I can take it over. It will become 126 is equal to 7n. And then if I divide, I just get 18 is equal to n. How many terms are there in the series? 18 terms. So now I know what n is. In the next sum, find the sum of the series. That's question B. So I can just then sub in all of those values into the Sn formula and then answer their question. So S18 would be equal to n over 2. So I know n is 18. 2a plus n minus 1 d. And then if you do all of that on your calculator, you would just see the answer. There we go, let's mark. So question A, I would give 3 marks because you figured out that you needed to do the Tn formula and place the 122 in there. So you'll get a mark on both sides of that equation, and then for 18. Find the sum of the series, just for subbing in and getting the answer. You would get the other mark. Question 3, determine the sum of the following series. So now you can see it's actually exactly the same as question 2 that we just did. They're just not holding your hand and giving you the first step. So I can see the dots there, so I know I'm going to have to do a Tn formula to figure out what's n before I can do Sn. So that's what I'm going to start with. I know that Tn is going to be equal to 82 in order to work out what is n. A is going to be 2, and then d, they're trying to trick me, but I can just say 13 over 4 minus 2. So always right minus left. Term 2 minus term 1, and that would give me 5 over 4. Now I first need to figure out what is n. So I'm going to do the Tn formula. I'm going to sub in a plus n minus 1, and d is that not very nice fraction, but I have a calculator, so it's fine. Tn I can replace with 82 is equal to 2 plus 5 over 4n minus 5 over 4. Okay, so I know I'm going to take over the 2, so that will be 80, and I'm going to minus, or I'm going to take the negative 5 over 4, and it's going to become a plus 5 over 4 on the other side. That is just 5 over 4. And you can decide how many steps you want to do in between. I can now go and multiply everything by 4 to just get rid of the fractions. But I can just also immediately in the calculator type it in. Just to be 100% and show you all the steps, I'm going to multiply by 4 first. So I know 80 times 4 is 320, plus 5 is equal to 5n, and then 325 divided by 5 would give me 65. So in this pattern, there's actually 65 terms that I'm going to have to work out with the Sn formula. Okay. Determine the sum of the following series. Now I can sub into Sn. So I know I'm going to have to work out S65. That would be equal to n over 2, 2a, plus n minus 1 times d. Okay, this is now massive fractions and everything, but you are welcome to just type it straight in your calculator. You get your marks for subbing into the correct formula and having everything in the right place. So don't worry too much about the middle steps. You will get full marks if you say the answer is 2,730 for S65. Let's see where the marks would be. So I'll definitely get a mark for the final answer. I'll get a mark for subbing in. I'll get a mark for saying n is 65, and then I would get 1 or 2 marks for subbing in the 82 into the Tn formula. So sometimes your teacher can be generous and give 5 marks for this in a cycle test or an exam. Okay, let's look at the final question. So in the arithmetic Sn part of the chapter, this is considered as one of the more difficult questions, or one of the exam level questions that they can put in with this. So try it, and if it doesn't make sense, then let's go through it together. Okay, calculate the greatest number of terms that can be added. Okay, so added is the key word there, so I know Sn, to give me a total smaller than, so think inequality, smaller than 400. So if I go for a list in this one, I know I'm going to work with the Sn. Okay, so if I make my list, I know I'm going to work with Sn, and they tell me the total must be smaller than 400. The question is calculate the greatest number of terms, so therefore n is what I'm working out. A is just 5 over 2, and then d would be 4 minus 5 over 2, which is actually 3 over 2. Okay, so now I can see there are 3 dots, but there's nothing on the other side of the dots, so it's definitely not a Tn formula. So I can straight away go and sub in the Sn formula. But I am going to leave the 400 on the right-hand side. So normally we put the Sn value on the left. Just because it's inequalities, I'm going to leave it on the right. So I'm going to start with my formula. I don't know what n is. That's what I'm looking for. And then 2a was 5 over 2 plus n is what I don't know. And then d is 3 over 2. Okay, and that must be smaller than 400. Okay, I can see there's a lot of fractions. I am going to simplify, but this 2 in the very beginning is bugging me. So I am going to actually multiply by 2 on both sides and simplify while I'm busy with it. Okay, so I know this is going to be smaller than 800 now. Okay, so 2 times 5 over 2, the 2's cancelled, that's just a 5. Now, n times 3 over 2 just gives me 3 over 2n minus 3 over 2, smaller than 800. Let me just move it a bit closer. Okay, I can see I'm going to end up with a trinomial, but there's still fractions. I don't like fractions, so I'm going to multiply the n in, but I'm also going to multiply everything by 2. So the 5 times 2 is going to give me 10n Then 3 over 2 times 2 is just going to give me a 3n. I'm multiplying the n in, n squared. And then, again, with the other one, going to double everything. So multiply by 2, the 2 goes away, and I'm multiplying n. Remember, I'm multiplying by 2, so this side must also be multiplied by 2. Okay, I hope it wasn't too confusing doing 2 steps in one, but you're welcome to separate the steps and just get to the same place. Okay, now I can actually get a trinomial. So 3n squared plus 10 minus 3 gives me 7n minus 1,600 smaller than 0. Okay, now this is again a trinomial, but this is not a trinomial that's going to work out with brackets. So even if you have the white calculator, your brackets are not going to work. Remember, in this case, you must show them the quadratic formula. So we're not working out x, we're working out n. And then I can just highlight for myself my a, b, and c values. So a is 3, b is 7, c is actually a bit big, but that is my c value. So minus 7 plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Remember the minus there, otherwise you're going to get an error. Okay, all over to a. If I type in that whole thing in the calculator, it's actually going to tell me n is equal to negative 24.29, or n is equal to 21.96. Okay, now this is where the level 4 stuff comes in, the most difficult questions there. Now, we taught you guys that n is not allowed to be a decimal or negative. So because it's not allowed to be negative, I can immediately cancel that. Not applicable. Okay. But now, n is also not allowed to be a decimal. But now we're going back to the question, and you must really understand what they're asking. Calculate how many terms can be added to give a total smaller than 400. Okay. So what I just worked out is if n was allowed to be 21.96, the total would have been 400. But we just wanted it just smaller than that. So my answer will then be n must be smaller than 21.96, and therefore n must equal 21. So for that, you would get your full marks. I know this was a difficult type question, but the sequence and series chapter is very deceptive. It feels easy while you're doing homework, and then they throw in questions like this in tests and exams. So please know the easy things 100%, but also focus on these ones, because it's, like you can see, 6 marks. It's easy to lose these marks in the very beginning of the sum. So where would you get your 6 marks? You'll definitely get your 6 marks from doing an equality, from subbing into the correct formula. Then you will get a mark for getting your trinomial, for getting the 2 answers, and then for actually knowing what the question means, that you must say 21 is the answer. Okay, that feels a bit more difficult than the previous practice videos we did, but how did it go? How much did you get out of 17? If this was a little weekly class test, how would you have done? Please let me know.
If this video helped you, please like and subscribe.
JJ Math.